So in this last piece that we're going to do with the dice is do test-driven development to add a new method to the dice. So we've been given a new requirement for the dice functionality that we can roll it a given amount of times and get back all of those responses. So basically, the ability to roll 6 of these dices at once, right? But by only utilizing 1 dice to get it all done. So we're in our test spec. Let me hit enter a lot just to bring this up into the middle. Okay, so we're going to copy this block just to give us our foundation. So dice, we're going to test the method roll multiple times. Okay, so what multiple times is going to do, get multiple rolled random values. So what it's going to do is we're basically going to roll the dice over and over and over and over again for a given number that's passed in. So multiple times, and we're going to pass it in the value of the number 3. Okay, so this will return an array. So let's make it an S that has 3 randomly rolled values. And we're going to need to do a for loop now of the rolls, and we need to assert that the roll is a value that exists in our test array. And so we're doing all the same logic to add the 3 in as another option, which, you know, I'm not worried about that at this moment. And then, so we get our var rolls, we're doing a loop to assert that it's in there, and that should be enough. So if we come to our error and look, the first error that we're getting is that roll dice multiple times is not a function. So it's not a method in our object. So let's copy that and come back to dice, and let's create that function. So dice dot roll multiple times equals a function. And now what does our test say? Can't read property for each of undefined, so the value is not being returned. Well, we know it's supposed to return an array, so let's initialize an array. Let's call it values. Let's call it rolls, because it's the list of rolls, and let's tell it to be equal to an array. And then let's return rolls. Different types of rolls. So at this point, we're still probably failing because we're just passing back an empty array. So let's see what it says. Cannot read property for each of undefined still. So rolls, return rolls, and our spec roll value. Oh, it's not dice.roll values. It's just going to be the roll values. Oh, look, and it passes now because there are none, and so that happens. Yay! We're just passing back an empty array though. So we do need to be careful that we need to also assert right here, assert let's actually just copy this line, make our lives a little bit easier. We just need to assert the length real quick. So rolls values dot length should be 3. Now it's telling us that we have an assertion error. We expected 0 to equal 3. So now let's go back to our dice because we're passing in 3 and we should do something with that. So passing in 3, and let's do a for loop for var. Oh, sorry, we're not passing in 3. Let's do how many times var I is equal to 0 as long as I is less than how many times and then I plus plus and what we're going to do inside the for loop. So we're going to do a rolls dot push. We're going to do dice dot roll. And that needs to be the method version. So now we're taking rolls, which is an array. We're making it equal to an empty array. We're looping through how many times, and we're doing a dice roll to get a value, and we're returning all of the values for the number of rolls, and we're still failing. So let's see what it has to tell us. Side is not defined. So that's probably in the spec. Yeah, I bet if we go back and look. Yep, dice spec line 65. Right here, side is not defined. And that's right, we changed it to roll. Test assertion did not expected 1 to equal 2. So now we're doing the roll was the exact same, and that may not be the case. So what we need to do is earlier in one of our other tests, we do this assert value. That the roll is in there, and then the way we asserted it was that assert value was true. So what we're doing is we're taking the array index of roll and making sure that it's in our array, and then we're asserting that it's true. So now we've done multiple rolls. We do 3 at a time. We get back an array with 3 of those, and we know that it works. So that's how you do test-driven development, is you write your test first, And, we didn't write it perfectly. There were problems with our test. And we had to kind of tweak it as we go to make sure we're getting the right result. But now we know that just like that, our method works, and I don't have to add a button over here to do a click for multiple roles or anything like that to know that it works. I've written the code and know that it works, so that when a user does implement this role multiple times, that it's going to work for them. Like I said before, we don't need luck coding anymore. We have test-driven development to help us.